In a rain-slicked Godam night, a crimson and gold heroine crashes through a skylight, lasso blazing like molten sunlight, forcing a warlord to choke out the truth while bullets spark uselessly off her bracelets. The crowd roars, the credits roll, and every kid in the theater walks out believing Wonder Woman was born in 1941. But then the camera pulls back further back 5,000 years back past the marble of Athens, past even the pyramids, until it settles on a sun-bleached ziggurat rising from the reeds of ancient Mesopotamia, where a real woman, part goddess, part storm, stands atop the blood-wet stairs with 8-pointed starlight burning in her eyes and a rope of gold coiled around her fist that makes gods themselves confess. Her name echoes across the clay tablets older than the Bible, older than Homer. Ishtar. She is the original. Before Captain America's shield, before Thor's hammer, before Wanda Maximoff ever whispered chaos magic, there was Ishtar, goddess of love and war, sex and death, the morning star and the evening star, the woman who could make a king weep with desire and then gut him on the battlefield before breakfast. Sound familiar? Of course it does. Diana Prince's and Tyre resume the bullet-deflecting bracelets, the lasso of truth, the warrior princes from a hidden island. Shtick, even the star-spangled shorts was lifted, polished, and repackaged from a goddess who was already headlining the ancient world when Athens was still a sheep pasture. Marvel gave us a god of thunder who learned humility. Netflix gave us warrior nuns and witcher monster slayers. Disney gave us a Polynesian demigod who pulls islands with a fishhook. All impressive. Yet every single one of them owes rent to the original triple-threat goddess who could seduce you, destroy you, and resurrect herself before the end credits, and who did it wearing nothing but lapis lazuli and absolute confidence. Look closer and the theft becomes blatant. That unbreakable golden rope that forces honesty? Ishtar used it first, dragging the rulers of the underworld by a leash of divine law. The Starfield tiara? Hers was an 8-pointed star crown that made the planet Venus itself her personal spotlight. The invisible jet? Please. Ishtar rode a chariot pulled by 7 lions across the sky each dawn. The Amazons, those fierce immortal women who trained Diana? They were real Scythian horse archer queens whose graves are littered with battle wounds, and every single one of them prayed to a version of Ishtar before they rode out to cut Persian throats. Even the dual nature, love and war in one package, is stolen cargo. Hollywood loves to act shocked when a heroine is both bedroom and battlefield. But Ishtar invented that contradiction 5 millennia ago and never apologized for it. Now, let us descend into the dust and cedar smoke of Sumer, where the story truly begins. Act 1. The city of Uruk, brick walls 100 feet high, the Euphrates sliding past like liquid bronze under a merciless sun. Here walks Gilgamesh, 2/3 god, 1/3 man, all ego, a king who thinks mortality is a suggestion. He taxes widows, wrestles lions for sport, and claims the right to sleep with every bride on her wedding night. The people cry out and the gods listen. From the red poppy fields of heaven steps Ishtar, barefoot, anklets chiming like tiny bells of war, scent of myrrh and blood trailing behind her. She offers Gilgamesh her hand, her bed, her divine favor. Imagine the proposal, the most beautiful woman in existence, voiced like honey over hot iron, promising a king eternal glory if he becomes her lover. Any mortal man would have fallen to his knees. Gilgamesh, arrogant fool, recites a list of her exes who all ended up dead or insane and tells her, in front of the entire court, to get lost. The palace freezes. You could hear a date stone drop. Ishtar does not scream. She smiles the way winter smiles, turns on her heel, and descends to the roof of heaven. Act 2. Vengeance, served hotter than Babylonian noon. She finds her father Anu, chief of the gods, polishing the bull of heaven, a creature so huge its snort is a hurricane. Ishtar asks, sweetly, for a loan. Anu reminds her what happened the last 7 times. She reminds him that she is war itself, and war does not take no for an answer. The bull is released. It stampedes across the world, drinking the Euphrates dry in 7 gulps, cracking the earth, killing hundreds. Gilgamesh and his wild man brother Enkidu meet it on the plains. Bronze flashes, blood steams, the bull's bellow shakes mountains. Enkidu grabs its tail. Gilgamesh drives his sword into its throat, and the greatest monster in mythology dies at their feet. The crowd cheers. Ishtar, watching from the city walls, does not cheer. Here is the twist. The gods decide someone has to pay for killing heaven's property, and they choose Enkidu. A fever takes him slowly, horribly. Gilgamesh holds his dying friend and for the first time understands that even heroes rot. Ishtar never lifts a finger, yet she wins. Act 3. Love turns to obsession. Gilgamesh, shattered, decides death itself must be conquered. He crosses deserts of stinging salt, sails the waters of death where scorpions the size of lions guard the tunnel to the underworld. He finds Utnapishtim, the one man who survived the great flood, and begs for immortality. The answer is cruel. You will never have it. A broken king returns to Uruk and carves his story on clay so that someone, anyone, will remember he was here. Ishtar watches from her temple roof, silent. Did she love him after all? Or was the entire tragedy her way of teaching the one lesson no superhero movie ever dares? Even gods cannot save you from being human. But then the story darkens further. Skip ahead if you cannot stomach what a goddess does when she is truly, cosmically angry. Act 4. Ishtar decides to conquer death itself, not for love this time, but because no realm should be beyond her reach. She stands before the 7 gates of the underworld, ruled by her older sister Eresh-ki-gal, queen of dust and silence. At each gate Ishtar removes one piece of her regal splendor: crown, earrings, necklaces, breastplate, belt, bangles, and finally the last scrap of clothing. Naked, powerless, humiliated, she is dragged before Eresh-ki-gal and struck with 60 diseases. She dies. Yes, the goddess of life and war dies, hanged on a hook like butchered meat. The world above immediately begins to fail. Crops wither, animals refuse to mate, men and women lose all desire. The gods panic. Through cunning tricks involving mourning and substitute souls, they resurrect Ishtar, but there is a price. Every year she must return to the underworld for a season, and someone must take her place. Her lover Dumuzi, the pretty shepherd king, is chosen. He tries to run. Ishtar's demons catch him. His sister volunteers to share the sentence, half the year below, half above, and that, children, is why we have winter. Act 5. The goddess reborn strides out of the underworld dripping with grave water, eyes blazing brighter than before. She walks the earth again, lion at her side, bow across her back, and every king from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean sends tribute because they know what happens when Ishtar is displeased. Armies march under her 8-pointed star. Lovers whisper her name in the dark. Temples rise where priestesses perform the sacred marriage, channeling the goddess into mortal flesh so the land stays fertile. She is unstoppable, untamed, the first and greatest superheroine, and every century that follows borrows from her legend without ever daring to speak her real name. Act 6. Empires rise and crumble. Babylon succeeds Uruk. Assyria succeeds Babylon. Persia, Greece, Rome, all of them drinking from the same cup. When the Greeks meet her, they split her in two because one goddess who is both sex and death terrifies them. Aphrodite gets the love, Artemis gets the war, Athena gets the strategy, but none of them ever quite recapture the raw voltage of the original. Centuries later, a psychologist named William Moulton Marston, fascinated by bondage, truth serums, and strong women, sits down to create a comic book heroine who will teach American children that submitting to loving authority is the ultimate strength. He reaches back, perhaps knowingly, perhaps not, and pulls every major beat from Ishtar's playbook, the golden rope that compels truth. The bracelets forged from divine metal, the paradise island of warrior women, the dual mission of love and justice. He calls her Wonder Woman and tells reporters she is inspired by Greek myth. Technically true, but Greek myth was already a cover version. Now watch the side-by-side and try not to laugh or cry. Hollywood gives Deanna an invisible jet. Ishtar had 7 lions and the dawn itself as her Uber. Hollywood gives her a god-killer sword. Ishtar killed the bull of heaven with her bare manicured hands and a bad attitude. Hollywood insists she is a princess who left paradise out of the goodness of her heart. Ishtar stormed the underworld naked because nobody, not even death, tells her where she can and cannot go. The lasso? Same function, 5,000 years earlier, used by temple priests in actual rituals to extract oaths. The star-spangled costume? Ishtar's priests wore robes embroidered with her 8-pointed star, while the planet Venus blazed overhead like a spotlight. Even the tragic love story with Steve Trevor echoes Dumuzi, the beautiful mortal who dies for the goddess and whose death keeps the seasons turning. One is sold to us as groundbreaking feminist iconography in 1941. The other was terrifying the ancient world in 2500 BCE. Tell me again who stole from whom. Here is the twist nobody in the writer's room wants to admit. Every time a studio exec says superheroes are modern mythology, they're half right and half plagiarists. Thor's hammer, Aquaman's trident, Captain Marvel's cosmic energy, all of it trickles down from older, bloodier, sexier gods who never needed a cinematic universe because the actual universe was enough. Ishtar didn't need 6 solo movies and a crossover event to prove she was the strongest there is. She simply walked into the land of the dead, died, came back, and dared anyone to make a sequel. So the next time the screen explodes with slow-motion lasso swings and patriotic guitar riffs, remember, the original stood on a ziggurat older than writing itself. Naked to the waist, lions roaring at her command, dragging gods by a golden rope, while the morning star burned above her like a promise and a threat. She did not come to man's world because she believed we deserved saving. She came because the world, all worlds, belonged to her by right of conquest, by right of resurrection, by right of being the first story ever told about a woman who could love you to death and then bring you back just to do it again. And in the end, that is the most human truth of all. We keep retelling Ishtar because deep down every one of us wants to be both the lover and the storm, the one who can break your heart and then break the chains of hell to get it back. Long after the cinemas go dark and the comic books yellow with age, her 8-pointed star will still rise with Venus at dawn, reminding the sky, reminding us that some women were never created. They simply refused to stay dead.